Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy, where we have seen the latest Warner Brothers has decided to release regarding the sequel to The Joker. Titled Joker, Folie. The sequel is said to be a musical that takes up where the first Joker movie left off. Arthur is in Arkham State Hospital after shooting a late-night talk show host live on air. While in Arkham, he meets Lee, a musical therapist, and they fall in love. They begin to have shared delusions in which their madness begins to express itself through song. Meanwhile, Arthur's followers on the street are attempting to free him from Arkham, which will ultimately lead to the Crown Prince of Crime's criminal empire. Now, having written that down and read it back to myself, all I want to do is head desk myself into unconsciousness. The trailer has any number of issues, but most of them stem from the very basis of the project. It is a vague, flashy, confused, manic, rudderless trailer that is largely inoffensive unless you are not a normie. If you are a normie, this may or may not appeal to you given how they have presented it through this trailer, and the likelihood you will like it will probably depend largely on whether you like musicals, Lady Gaga, and or the first Joker movie. For those of us cursed with actually knowing the least bit about DC Comics, particularly those surrounding Batman, this is probably going to drive us crazy. Given she was so front and center in the trailer, let's start with who they are calling Lee. Nowhere that I can ever recall has Harley Quinn ever been known as Lee. And yes, that is who she's supposed to be. Also, she was not a musical therapist. She was a psychologist who was the Joker's therapist while he was in the psych ward, and he slowly mind-f***ed her until she fell in love with him, becoming his sidekick and literal partner in crime. The trailer does not portray any of that except the whole falls in love with her thing. Even that is warped to fit what they have decided to do just because someone thought casting Lady Gaga was a good idea. That is not to say she is a bad actress. Apparently, she is not, since she was nominated for a Best Actress Oscar and has won a Golden Globe, each for separate projects. It seemed from the way the various announcements about the project fell out that they got Lady Gaga, and because of that, formed the entire project around the fact that she would be in it. Taking advantage of that, they would make it a musical. For those who don't know, musicals and comic books have nearly polar opposite demographic makeups in their separate fan bases. Musicals are generally overwhelmingly patroned by those of the population who possess lady bits. There are a lot of studies about this fact and all of the whys and wherefores, but needless to say, it is a well-established fact. The same goes for comic books, only in the opposite direction. Anywhere between 70% and 85% of comic book fans have dangly bits. The only reason comic book companies like Marvel and DC and the bright brains in Hollywood think otherwise is a Facebook poll where some marketing research group asked who likes comic books, at the height of the MCU, mind you, and it came back 50-50. Now, who likes comic books is vague. That could mean anything from you have a $500 a month comic book habit, to liking the MCU, to buying Funko Pops of Marvel and DC characters. The hard numbers at comic book shops and comic book conventions outside of San Diego Comic-Con skew heavily male in the numbers. The numbers for comic book movies, science fiction movies, and fantasy movies have similar male-leaning audiences. So mixing musicals and comic books is likely to fail. That is not to say some guys don't like musicals, or that some girls don't like comic books. They do, but they generally like them for the way they are made for the preferred audience. It also doesn't mean that genre projects that incorporate musical elements into them don't exist. The 7th episode of the 6th season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer comes to mind as one of the most prominent examples. However, Joss Whedon was a genius writer. The cast of that show was exceptional. The show had a deeply loyal fan base, and the story was woven into the musical numbers in such a way and to emphasize the story rather than detracting from it. However, more often than not, things wind up in another direction. Case in point being the more recent 9th episode of the 2nd season of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, wherein the crew of the USS Enterprise winds up experiencing an accident with an experimental quantum probability field that causes everyone to break into song. This was an episode so bad that it came complete with a scene of Klingons doing a boy band number that no amount of bleach will cleanse from my eyes or my brain. Everyone involved, from Alex Kurtzman down to the lowliest assistant writer, should be chased out of Hollywood and never allowed near a creative endeavor ever again. And that is the sort of range of how Joker Part 2 could go. I will say that the writing able to be discerned from the trailer does not fill me with confidence that it will get anywhere near the Buffy end of the spectrum, no matter how good a voice Lady Gaga has or how good the musical director for the film is. And she is quite good, since Gudnadottir won an Oscar for the first Joker movie. But that is just the issues with making it a musical because Lady Gaga is attached. Nothing in the trailer looked like there was an overly coherent story going on. Now, that could be because the writers are creative geniuses and are taking advantage of the idea of having an unreliable narrator as the protagonist. This would give them leeway for all kinds of skewed perspectives, alternate viewpoint scenes, warped perception, and other fun things good writers can run with to create entertaining and impactful stories. And if that were what I saw in the trailer, I might be excited to see what they have done. Alas, that was not really what I saw in the trailer. The trailer laid out a chaotic, seemingly non-linear narrative with a sprinkling of delusion mixed in with the remnants of the insanity that overtook the streets of Gotham at the end of the first Joker movie. The anarchic mobs seem to have gained organization. Organization pointed at rallying support for getting Arthur Fleck released, one way or the other. As I said at the beginning, there is nothing overly offensive about the trailer to normies. It looks like the trailer to a sequel for the Joker, which it is, of course. But beyond focusing on Lady Gaga being Lady Gaga and therefore turning the Joker 2 into a musical, using Harley Quinn as her character is also a little problematic. Harley Quinn is a character that seems to work only if you commit to going all the way with it. Margot Robbie showed that in the Suicide Squad movies for DC's Snyderverse. It was a masterful performance from Robbie in both the David Ayer's first movie as well as the James Gunn's second movie, displaying someone clearly not wholly in touch with reality, but also someone with high intelligence and keen perception when dealing with other people in order to get the outcomes she wants, even if she is batshit crazy. Lady Gaga Harley Quinn, shown in the trailer, seems to lack that commitment. She also does not strike me as the intelligent psycho that Harley is, or at least should be. It looks like a Harley Quinn that has been brought into the real world, losing all of the insane charm and charisma she has in other iterations. Almost like this Harley Quinn belongs to the Christopher Nolan Gotham. The Nolan trilogy of Batman movies was set in a Gotham that seemed just a degree or two off from our world, making it a place where people like Batman and Scarecrow and Catwoman and Joker could exist. This Harley Quinn looks like she would fit right into that Gotham. Unlike this Arthur Fleck, who very much is portrayed with a grounded realism that would not be totally alien to our reality. With his mental and neurological ailments, life experiences, and choices, this Arthur Fleck shows a logical progression into insanity that needs no fantastical or science fiction explanations for him. This is very much at odds with every other live-action portrayal of him. even the Heath Ledger performance for Christopher Nolan. That Joker needed the couple of degrees of slant from our own world to exist. Will Joker Folie be good? Not sure. The first movie was made for $50 million and had little oversight by either DC or Warner Brothers because they thought it wasn't going to work, and brought in over $1 billion, earning dozens of award nominations around the world. This film will have more studio oversight, meaning more studio meddling, and this is because the studio has sunk $200 million into it. Like Disney Marvel, DC is missing the lessons being taught every year where massive budgets on film go. And bumping up the budget on a $50 million hit is not unusual, but it is unusual to quadruple it for the sequel. For example, Shazam had a budget of around $100 million. Shazam! Fury of the Gods only got bumped up to $125 million. Why? Because once you hit $100 million, the bar for what is considered a success keeps going up. Shazam brought in $365 million worldwide. This means it barely scraped a profit of about $60 million. To us peons, that is a lot. To a studio who can turn around and spend $200 million on a musical comic book movie, not so much. For Joker Folie to be considered a success, it will need a minimum of $600 million worldwide. That is probably doable based solely on the reputation of the first movie. However, Warner Bros. Discovery, the parent company of DC, are in financial trouble. They are betting large on this being a hit in the range of the first movie. Anything less than at least hitting the neighborhood of $1 billion, and they will probably feel it was a waste of time and money. And James Gunn can't afford for the higher-ups at Warner Bros. Discovery to begin thinking like that where DC Studios is concerned. So hopefully, as we get closer to the release in October, we will get a better trailer that fleshes out what it is they are trying to do with this film. Is it just musical delusions of Arthur Fleck? Is there a rational, linear story to be had, sprinkling in a little bit of musical delusion? Are they writing with the hopes of continuing this saga of descent into madness into more films? We will see. That is all I have for this video. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. It all helps and is greatly appreciated. Until next time. Tschüss.